The investiture of a new president at an institution of higher learning brings an opportunity for new beginnings for scientific understandings and innovative discoveries. The uniqueness of an historically black institution situates the African American perspective in public and educational spaces that is intentionally inclusive of black scholarship, voices, perspective, and promise. Most importantly, it provides scholars an opportunity to reflect on the institutional academic accomplishments while simultaneously illuminating the future for many generations to follow. At Norfolk State University, our top-notch faculty is poised by being exceptional in teaching, service, and scholarship. Thus, we live by Norfolk State's slogan, "We see the future in you." Greetings. My name is Dr. Robert K. Perkins, and I'm a professor of sociology here at Norfolk State University. As we inaugurate the 7th president of Norfolk State, Dr. Javon Adams Gaston, we are delighted that you have joined us. Today has been filled with examples of exceptional talents showcased by our 5 deans and 15 researchers from various disciplines across campus. Because of our award-winning and prestigious faculty, our future at Norfolk State is brighter than ever. Speaking of which, some of NSU's finest faculty members are here with me today to discuss some historical markers, reaffirm our scholarship, and share future research agendas and collaborations. So, let me introduce our panelists today. We have Dr. Carl McGowan, Dr. Sheila Ward, Dr. Leroy Salary, Dr. Kirsten Erickson, Dr. Terry Marsh, and Dr. Erica Russell. And I forgot your A and I forgot your S for your initials, didn't I? So at this point, we will have them to introduce themselves and tell a little bit about each of their academic experience at Norfolk State University.
My name's Carl McGowan. I'm a faculty distinguished professor in the School of Business. My primary area is finance, but I'm also teaching substantially in accounting. And my research primarily involves financial statement analysis of corporations and valuation and international finance, particularly the relationship between multinational corporation, foreign direct investment, and economic growth and development in low-income economies. I've been here at Norfolk State University since 2005, but I did my PhD at Michigan State, so I've been a Spartan for about 50 years.
My name is Dr. Sheila A. Ward. I'm a professor in the Department of Health, Physical Education, and Exercise Science, which is in the School of Education. I've been at Norfolk State University for 25 years, and I'm in the beginning of my 26th year. My area of expertise is exercise physiology, and I enjoy looking at the cultural arts, specifically dance arts, as a health promoting activity throughout the lifespan for African Americans. When we look at dance, dance contains history of the people, it contains the cultural values, and it contains the solutions to many of the health disparities that exist today. So my health disparities research connects back to something that all people do, dance or movement.
Again, my name is Leroy Salary, Jr. Okay. I'm representing the College of Science of Engineering and Technology. One of my interests, I have a couple of interests, but my main interest is in crystal growth and crystal physics. I'm representing the physics department also. And so one of the things that I love about crystal growth and crystal physics is it reaches everybody. And it's undergraduates and graduate students are able to do it. And so I get to participate with both the graduates and the undergraduates through my research and my research activities. Mainly I grow crystals that are quantum crystals. And so right now, some of those things that we'll be looking at are quantum computers. We'll be looking at faster lasers. And so these crystals can be used in any of those applications. So that's my expertise. And my time here at NSU has been 21 years.
All right.
Okay. I am Kirsten S. Erickson, and I am currently the interim BSW program director in the Evelyn R. Strong School of Social Work, but I am also an associate professor. And before I came to academia, I was a practicing social worker in the school as a school social worker, and also with youth and early intervention. And so that comes to my research interest of the teaching of scholarship and learning. And this is emphasized in my efforts to try and enhance students' experience to become professional social workers, especially as it relates to securing trauma-informed practices. And so that is the area that I like to emphasize with students. I have been at Norfolk State as part of the Spartan family for 9 years now.
I'm Terry Marsh, and I have been at Norfolk State now for 9 years. And prior to that, I was working at CBS. I'm also a military veteran and a U.S. Army veteran. I need to specify. I am in the College of Liberal Arts, specifically the Department of Mass Communication and Journalism. And I teach a variety of classes: television production, a course called Issues in the Media, or Media Issues, where we look at different things that might cause problems within society, issues projected throughout the media. But my research interests are in social and digital media, media representation of marginalized population or minority populations, and health communications. I think one of the things that I really enjoy is broadening the scope of student experiences when they look at the media or different aspects of media, and then helping them to decipher things that may make marginalized populations feel a little bit more uncomfortable.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Erica Russell. I am an associate professor of psychology here at Norfolk State, and today I am representing the Robert C. Nussbaum's Honors College, for which I have the honor of serving as a faculty member to the Honors College, and so I am also a professor of psychology. That kind of connects with my expertise. I am a licensed psychologist who transitioned into higher ed, and I have a particular interest in the lived experience of Black women, enhancing the quality of life for those who have been marginalized. And I believe that I am at year 7. The beginning of year 8, actually completed year 7, beginning of year 8. My research interests are broad. I'm involved in a number of different research activities. Currently, I'm working on some investigations that focus on the experiences of first-generation college students, as well as professionals, which I may have an opportunity to speak more to later, as well as the mattering of Black professional women's lives.
Excellent. This is a dynamic panel. I'm the moderator for this panel. My name is, again, Dr. Robert K. Perkins, and I am a professor of sociology, and I've been at Norfolk State for 17 years as a professor. I am also an alum, go Spartans, of Norfolk State University. I started my undergrad degree here in I started it and finished it. I'm not going to give you years. But this panel discussion is going to be about reflecting and also looking into the future as faculty members here at Norfolk State. So we have some prompt questions that I designed, and we're going to talk about each of them and have some good, lively discussions. And for you out there in the listening audience, you're going to enjoy it. But first, we're going to have a break because you're going to hear from one of our oldest faculty members at Norfolk State University.
Dr. Annie Perkins, tenured professor of English. I was hired by the university's second president, Dr. Lyman Beecher Brooks, and I have never regretted it. Since the days of my youth, this university has been my professional home, a place where I have interacted with talented, intelligent, and committed colleagues in the Department of English and Foreign Languages and across the campus. Being at NSU has fulfilled my childhood dream of being a teacher, and the opportunity to teach at one's alma mater is a dream come true indeed. Over the years, I have taught outstanding and ordinary students, many of whom have become educators themselves, or lawyers, or filmmakers, or military leaders, or writers, or doctors, and so on. And because many students have said so, I believe that their experiences in my classrooms have been beneficial to them, in some instances, life-changing. Here at NSU, I have had opportunities beyond the classroom. For example, when President Harrison B. Wilson appointed me coach of our academic team in 1992, a former colleague and I prepared 5 students, all males, to compete in the regional and national competition at the Honda Campus All-Star Challenge in Los Angeles, a competition among the nation's HBCUs. These bright, exemplary young men not only won the televised championship match, they also won the $50,000 prize for NSU. What a moment for them. What a coup for NSU. A more recent opportunity resulted from my having written a book with 3 departmental colleagues on teaching August Wilson's plays. From that collaboration arose the idea of having Norfolk State University host the National August Wilson Monologue Competition by providing professors to prepare high school students to present Wilson monologues at a regional competition. Regional winners would then go on to compete nationally in New York City for scholarships. Norfolk State University embraced this idea, and our university is now one of only 2 HBCUs nationwide to host this epic competition. NSU has afforded me other opportunities to collaborate with my colleagues in doing what college professors do: write papers for conference presentations, complete departmental and university committee assignments, create initiatives to ensure students' competitiveness in the workplace, write textbooks, and hold positions of leadership in our departments. I spent 6 years leading my department as chair, and while the workload was demanding and at times all-consuming, the rewards were innumerable. Because of supportive, creative, and devoted colleagues, I navigated the nuts and bolts of university operations, ensured timely student graduations, endorsed faculty projects, such as bringing luminaries like Cornel West and Henry Louis Gates to the campus. I helped plan our department's annual literary conferences and found funding for end-of-the-year gatherings, birthday parties, student receptions, and wistful retirement celebrations. These are experiences I feel fortunate to have had, and I will always treasure each one. Now, I'm learning to become an excellent online instructor. Imagine that. Yet another opportunity to learn and to grow as a professional, even as my career nears its end. Another milestone made possible. Learning, teaching, collaborating, and contributing to Norfolk State University have provided work for my hands and satisfaction to my heart throughout the years of my professional career. What an adventure it continues to be. To my alma mater, Norfolk State University, I say thank you.
Welcome back, and we're still here. I must admit, we're still in the midst of COVID, so we've all got our vaccinations, and we felt comfortable removing our mask. But COVID has spun us in many different directions as a society. But one of the things that it has not deterred is our scholarship. So my first question is, considering all of the scholarship that you have done over the years or decades, which project makes you the most proudest and why? Who would like to jump in?
I'll start. I think the project that makes me proudest is one that I worked on. It's actually looking at pictures. The name of the project actually is Pictures Worth 1,000 Words, a visual analysis of visual framing in Black Lives Matter and civil rights protest photography. So basically what this was a comparative analysis looking at civil rights photography and Black Lives Matter protest photography in specific newspapers. Newspapers that for instance, I did a lot of research in newspapers in Birmingham, Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, and compared those with black newspapers around the country, what was presented in traditional newspapers, and looking at the images presented in black newspapers. And did the same thing with Black Lives Matter photography after the Michael Brown shooting in Ferguson, Missouri. So did a lot of research looking at the images and how they were presented in traditional or native newspapers compared to those that were presented in black-owned newspapers or the black press. Also looked at how those images were self-presented on the Black Lives Matter website. Now, there wasn't anything to compare that with back in the 1960s during the civil rights era, but when you start looking at how those individuals self-represent as in relationship to how they are presented to overall society, there's a extreme contrast, a vast difference. And a lot of the images that we saw in society or in traditional newspapers or in traditional media were not all of that flattering about protest participants in Black Lives Matter protests. But when you look at how they self-present on their social media platforms, there are no rioting, there is no, there's no in your face with the police, but it's more of a representation of unity, fighting for a cause.
That is fascinating. I'm reminded when people talk about dictatorships or war, and they always say, well, for every victor, you have a loser.
Absolutely.
And the interesting part is the victor and the loser is based on your perspective, where you stand on those issues. And when you talked about your research, it made me think about that. Excellent. Very good. I'd love to read more or see more about that.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Anyone else want to jump in?
I can. Yes, definitely. One of the things I have been most excited about in terms of my scholarship is the integration and the use of African diaspora arts. And I've spoke to you a bit about dance because when we look at dance, it's a way for us to show beauty. It's a way for us to show our physical fitness. It's a way for us to show our spiritual connectedness. And these are things that happen prior to the African being spread out throughout the world. So definitely before coming to America. And our movement, our right to move, to have agency over our body, all of that was repressed through the slave trade. And so we are in a society now and in a time period now, and we've been slowly going through that period of reclaiming agency over our bodies. Because on the slave ships, we were told to dance and had to dance when it was convenient for those taking us through that journey to dance. It wasn't dance that we were doing for ourselves. Our movements were free. Our movements came from our bodies. Our movements were integrated within our daily life. So we didn't have to have time to plan physical activity. It was already incorporated in our lifestyle. And those things changed once the dynamics of our existence on this earth changed. And so reclaiming for African Americans our physically active lifestyle, that has been some of my most rewarding work. and for all populations across the spectrum. When I'm talking about chronic disease prevention and I'm talking about health promotion, and I'm talking about having agency over your body to feel comfortable to move regardless of your size, of your shape. I'm talking about for all African Americans. I focus on African American women. I started with them, but also men who have sex with men and the transgender population, all African Americans across the lifespan.
Excellent, excellent. That's just like, I used to be a social worker, Dr. Erickson. I don't know if you knew that, but I remember I used to have clients, and they would come in depressed, and I asked them one question: when was the last time you danced like no one was watching? I used to ask them that, and now I can say, "Hey, this is academic. This is empirical."
It is academic. I have used it and have been invited to national conferences to using dance as an HIV/AIDS intervention tool. So when we talk about being creative, we've always had ideas in terms of what was created. It's fashionable now, and people are taking a look at because of Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, all of these incidents. We've always had these ideas, and we've always been writing grants to NIH to support the use of arts and other non-traditional intervention tools in our research. They just were not recognized. They're now being recognized. We have to make sure that they stay and remain recognized.
Excellent, excellent. Fascinating. Anyone else want to share?
I'd be happy to. When you were speaking, as you said, it reminded me of social work. And although that's not the content that I want to discuss specifically, self-care comes to mind, which is so critical. And we've all been, of course, discussing that a lot this past year with COVID. But the dance piece and self-care and how those are related. So very interesting, very interesting. If I had to share about one area that I am, or one research focus that I wanted to talk about, is an area that combines my passion for teaching, collaboration, and student success, and that would be high impact practices. So specifically, the one I want to focus on is learning communities. And so this is an area that is a passion of mine. And what we have found, I was involved with the first learning community in the School of Social Work, Empower, which was based on social and economic justice. And so for this learning community, the emphasis was about focusing on that content, matching what we were doing in the class to engagement with peers, with other faculty, and then in the community. So one activity in particular would be that students would be learning about a particular policy of their interest or a bill. They would study that bill, decide how they were going to create a 30-second elevator speech, and then we went to the General Assembly and they presented their 30-second call for advocating for this bill to a delegate. And so the feedback from the students has been very positive, and the findings are that it increases retention in students, persistence. That first cohort that existed in 2015, actually what's really exciting to me is that this group still keeps in contact. So we know that there was academic success, but we also found that this group still is connected and supports each other emotionally. So it's beyond the academic. Professionally, they are still engaged and involved. So that's kind of one area that is very interesting for me, especially with those positive outcomes that we want to see.
Well, you should be proud of that. Yeah, that's extraordinary, because networking takes you throughout your life. So you've built a tool that they can have for the rest of their career. And it's exciting to know that they're still utilizing their tool to this day. But when you talked about the 30-second, I thought about quantum. Because In another life, I want to be able to go back into the past. I want to sit down and have dinner with Martin Luther King. We have a lot to discuss.
Yes.
So tell us about some research you've done with quantum.
One of the things that I'm excited about, which is most recent research, with the group, we have a couple of people who are part of that group, which is the Quantum Electronics Group, QEG. And in fact, when you see, we have a little symbol that uses quantum symbols that we use in quantum and physics. One of the things that excites me about this is new. This is exciting. It's in your face. It's right out there. These quantum materials are faster than what we've had in the past. And so these materials allow us to build computers that are orders of magnitudes faster than anything you've been familiar with throughout when you think of a computer. We're talking about things that will be able to take us further in space. We're talking about things that will be able to gather information faster, data collection is much faster, data retrieval is much faster, and then data processing is going to be a whole lot more faster. And that's just the quantum computing part of it. But then you have all of the devices that you're familiar with today. Think about your television, if you think about the television, you think about any electronic device. That device may not even need the cord that you have with it. So now you evolve from wireless to weirding. And so these things that go into, it won't require the cords, the wireless, or anything like that. These things are going to be so fast that when you watch, and I know this is going to be a bit childish, but think of what you saw when you saw the Avengers movie and you saw Tony Stark.
I was just thinking of
When you think of the character or his computer, that's the computer that you will have. The one that you can talk to, that evolves with you, that has a voice, that can actually talk to you. Now, his computer evolved into what is known as vision, but now we would have that computer that's able to, or Jarvis is what we would call, he called his, we would be able to talk to our computer and say, hey, what are we doing today? Not just Alexa, not just Siri, but this computer will communicate with you directly. And so that's what we're looking at, something so fast that it evolves, that it adapts, and then it can communicate faster than what we're seeing today. So I'm really excited about that. And the good thing about it is I've been growing crystals since I began, or crystal growth has been a part of me since I graduated with my PhD. But interesting, this material sets me at the beginning of something very new, very exciting. And these types of materials are getting us to where we'll change our understanding of technology with these quantum materials. But more than that, we're introducing in the next few years a quantum course. So now, before students take their basic physics, they'll actually take a course in quantum. And that is even more exciting. So I'm really excited about what's going to take place with these materials. So when you think about quantum, I love what you just said. Quantum is the thing you have to understand in order to leap through time. So if you're gonna go through time,
I want to leap. I want to leap. And I want to go in the future, and I want to go in the past.
Quantum states and quantum wells and quantum structures, wormholes, all those things are quantum related, and it's very exciting to talk about those
But
things.
also, Dr. Salary, I want to have a computer that I don't have to wait for 5 minutes for it to boot up.
Exactly.
Is that coming?
That's what's coming.
All right.
Not computer on, not computer boot up, not power, simply Jarvis. Hello, how can I help you?
All right.
It's great to see you today. Well, hey, what did you do today? That's the computer of the future.
Excellent.
Wow.
All right.
Didn't they have something like that? And what was the movie Arnold Schwarzenegger was in years ago?
Yes.
When he walked in the room and he started speaking to, and it's amazing how some of, and here I am on the media track, but how some of the things that we've seen in media have translated into real products.
Yes.
I remember the Star Trek flip phone years ago, in the 1960s and the 1990s, it was in your hand, you know? And
Exactly.
it's amazing how you see some of these things transition into real life. And then, in many cases, everyday use.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
About 25 years ago, I started in teaching my advanced finance classes using real companies. And so the students, instead of reading a story about some made-up company, went and looked at real companies. That eventually evolved into 2 books that I still use in my advanced classes, one on financial statement analysis and one on valuation, Both of those books use Coca-Cola. But the original paper that started all of this did an analysis of Motorola. That paper has been online down at a university in Australia, and has been downloaded 206,000 times.
Wow.
So that brings our average in the School of Business way up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Thank you for sharing that. You have to share something, Doc.
Right, yeah. So I'm listening to all the discussion about all of the exciting things that everybody's doing and the advancement, the way that things are just kind of moving forward fast. It seems that we're going further, faster. And so, ironically, I'm most proud of my work that I affectionately call First Still. I was once a first-generation college student.
Yes.
I referenced that in my introduction, and I'm especially proud of this work because it's allowed me to be self-reflective while also intentionally opening up a dialogue around the experiences of individuals who are first-generation college students who matriculate and then go on to be first still. So as we think about the quantum leaps, you know, the advancements and things of that nature, the population of students who many institutions are fortunate to have many first-generation college students, what does life look like for them as they go on to these exciting careers, exploring and creating these new ways of doing life within the world while still managing the adjustments, you know, and responsibilities of being first. You know, in a lot of ways that involves, you know, kind of reaching back and bringing forward those who may not have imagined to do some of the things that that we're even discussing here. And so that has been something that has been really exciting for me to not only reflect on my own experiences, but to invite other individuals, because there are many people who were first in their families to pursue college and graduate study and certain career fields. And I think that is really important that we share our stories, that we add to narrative that allows us, as we are developing scholars, to help them to become well-rounded, healthy, whole professionals and contributors to our society.
Excellent. Thank you. And contributor to our society. That's why we do what we do.
Yes.
That's why we're here.
Absolutely.
And it is exciting. I think the proudest research that I participated in is my research on a colorblind society. Because it's this theory that's out there that say that people who want to be non-racist say, I don't see color. And my whole thing is, I want you to see my color because my lived experiences is very different from your lived experience. And we cannot celebrate each other unless we understand where our experiences come from, how to comprehend them. But what was really interesting about my research that I just love, it was a qualitative study. And I looked at white males raising their biological black sons, meaning they're married to a black female and they produced a son heir. And how that white gentleman is able to teach his black son how to navigate a racist society without actually experiencing day-to-day inequality and systemic racism as a male himself. So anyway, it was some fascinating research, and it's going to come out in August, I believe. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. Wow. But as you can see, here at Norfolk State, we have a vast research agenda with people doing so many different things in the sciences and the social sciences. Also, what we do at Norfolk State University is collaborate. And collaboration, we feel that is the nexus for new research in today's vernacular. So what are your experience with collaborating with people in different disciplines?
I can speak to that.
Okay.
I really can speak to that. I would say that it's interesting that you mentioned collaborations because that quantum electronics group is led by Dr. Doyle Temple, and yet we're both in physics, and I'm excited about what I'm doing now, but what I'm as excited about is there's a group with Dr. Cassandra Newby-Alexander, Dr. Charles Ford, and several other members of the NSU faculty.
And they are historians,
they're
correct?
Historians. They're historians. And we have English members in this group. We have Dr. Okala, who is in the arts. We have several other people in this group, but this group is sponsored by the Teague Foundation. And what we're talking about in this group is transformative text. How can one book or work or dance or form of art actually change our students' thinking, or not only change their thinking, but change how they perceive themselves? When students read a text or they read a work, in general, if you read something and that thing impacts you, you are changed by it. Every one of us watched George Floyd on that video. That's a work. That's a documented work that will be in the archives for years to come. We all saw it from the same perspective, but we all saw something different that we would pull out of. But none of us would say that we weren't changed by it. Transformative work. And so there are books out there that change the songs. A change is going to come. That song literally changed people. Although we know that there were other writers before that who wrote other songs before that. But that one song, when you hear it, you can't hear it and not be changed by it. So there are transformative texts such as Fences, changes people. So we're in this group that's supported by the Teague Foundation, and it's called the Southern Education Foundation Committee. And what we're looking to do is literally come together, not operate in silos, be one force. When I say not operate in silos, we're not going to look from just English, physics, science, history. We're not going to be separate. We're going to be one body that develops not what we call learning communities, but coves, which is a little bit bigger, and develop those so that we together can work together to show that our students can be changed. But the text is the foundation of the change, or the work is the foundation of the change. And that change will all present to the students from different areas and then see what was the value of this presentation in years to come. So it's really exciting to be a part of this collaboration. And I love working across campus and working in dialogue and across culture, across gender, across whatever. I have been a part of that for years. And so I'm just grateful to have this opportunity once again to work with all of our various faculty who now see that we can't work separately. But when we work, we have to do our work separately though. But we can find something we can do that's unified and together. And our students are the benefactors of it.
Right.
All right, I just feel like saying amen.
Yeah.
You know, we all saw the movie Soul Food when the moms say a fist together.
Yeah.
Who else have experience with working across campus they would like to share?
I do. And this is work that was directly the result of being funded by the Office on Women's Health. At the time, the research was related to HIV/AIDS and trying to prevent it, because African American women in the college age group were the primary target in terms of increased rates taking place. So funding was available, and with our program and the research that we were able to do, we were able to collaborate with the NSU Counseling Center and the NSU Residence Life. And to this day, we're talking 10 years from when that grant ended to now. Doing new student orientation, we are able to address incoming students. We have a program called We're Keeping It Real. We're Keeping It Real. And we present the data in a way that young people coming in can understand. So 17, 18-year-olds on campus for the first time, away from their parents sometimes for the first time, dorm room, all of that, we're presenting this information. It's important for them to understand that the information is information that is impacted by who collects it, who interprets it, who houses it, who accesses it, all of those things. And we need to let the young people know that CDC database is for you. Virginia Department of Health database is for you. You can collect data and create your own database and get health promoting information from that. And so we present that information to them during new student orientation, during a Go-Gay week. You know, we're on there this week for new student orientation. But it's just to show how from a grant from the Office of Women's Health, collaborating across campus with NSU Counseling Center and with Residence Life, we were able to develop programs such as We're Keeping It Real to address health risks associated with freshman females coming to college. And we also have one for the males called Love, Lust, and Lies, because it's a,
I have to admit the male title was not as fancy as the
we
ladies.
had to put it out there because there were so many myths that were out there that the research did not support some of the myths that some of the freshman males students were coming in with. And so all of those things are just important to let students know that the research is out there and you need to access it because you do have access to it.
Dr. Ward, also what was very crucial in what you're saying is that it's not just collaboration among the discipline, it's on the other side of campus. So that's a collaboration among student affairs and academic affairs, which is, I wouldn't say more important, but just as important.
It is
so thank you for sharing that.
It is just as important because those offices, and they actually have connections to all of the other departments across campus and know people across campus in ways that we do not, you know, always have the pleasure of being able to interact because we are very busy, as you know.
Gosh,
if we're doing research and you're teaching and you're out in the community.
Well, hold that thought. We're coming back to that. All right.
We're busy.
All right. That was great. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share about collaborating experience before we move on?
You know, I agree with the value of collaboration across campus, and I've had the opportunity to collaborate and to work with and serve with learning communities as well. But I want to put a slightly different spin on the collaboration piece. I had the opportunity to collaborate with some of my honors students on some research, and it was an awesome experience and timely. So we had an opportunity to present at a teaching in psychology conference, but our research was focused on expectations. And it was a collaborative autoethnographical research project, and it gave us an opportunity to sit and have discussion to kind of dive into our self-expectations, how we're operating, particularly within the context of pandemic times. So the student scholars were able to kind of reflect on, like, what are reasonable expectations? What expectations do I have of myself pre-pandemic? What types of expectations have I placed on myself as I am navigating these pandemic times? What are the expectations that I have of faculty? And then, I also, as a faculty person, was able to engage faculty in some of those same discussions. And it really turned out to be something that was very well received, very impactful, gave us an opportunity to kind of readjust and recenter. So it was not just data for the sake of collecting data. It was something that could be practically applied. And it gave us some real food for thought in terms of how we were going to do life post-COVID.
Excellent. So the students that you brought upon this project, what areas were they from? Were they engineers or?
Actually, they were students who were psychology majors. Okay. They happened to be psychology majors who were junior fellows within the Honors College, and they were also very active student leaders. And so that gave a very rich perspective because they were not just speaking about themselves as I'm a student who goes and sits in a virtual seat. They continue to lead very busy lives. And so it connected with many of the things that we've already kind of touched on in terms of self-care and, you know, just the scholastic experience. So it was a really really rich experience.
Well, it sounds enriching.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to join in.
Right.
Yeah, in sociology, we had a grant that I was one of the co-POs on, and Dr. Carlene Turner was one of the primary, along with Claude Turner. Well, Carlene Turner, sociologist, Claude Turner, and computer science. And Dr. Graham, Dr. Hines in computer science as well. Then we had Dr. Thomas in education, and some other folks across campus. Dr. Russell, I think you might have been involved in that. No, it was Dr. Franklin. And so anyway, all of us came together and we created this grant about cybersecurity.
Oh, yes.
And what we wanted to do was to infuse cybersecurity language and knowledge into not primary courses, but our general ed courses across campus, and also create a 400 or 500 level course in socio-cybersecurity. Because when you look at sociology in isolation, it's literally impossible. You know, that's why I tease with people all the time to say, no matter what your disciplines, you have to study sociology as well, because we are the God keepers of society. But with that said, we infuse cybersecurity into all of these different disciplines across campus. And NSF, the National Science Foundation, who funded the project, was so impressed with our project, they increased our project by $300,000 and told us to keep going for another year.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and that was the direct outcome from collaborating with computer science and other disciplines across campus. So as you can see, here at Norfolk State, not only are we scholars in our own right, we believe in connecting with other scholars in different disciplines to create a new wave of research, and we're going to continue to do so. But at this time, you have the wonderful, wonderful opportunity to hear from one of our alumnus. Stay tuned, and we'll be back after that.
Hi, I am JJ MAYO. I am a Mass Communications Norfolk State graduate. While here, I was fortunate to land an internship with Intercom Communications. This radio conglomerate houses 94.9 The Point, 2WD 101.3, Z104, and 95.7 R&B. Before my internship was completed, I was hired on as a promotions assistant. Today, I am an event talent for Z104, Q94, and Channel Q, Hampton Road's first LGBT radio station. Fortune and opportunity are never planned. However, with supportive professors constantly giving you tools and resources to live your dreams, I am here. When given the opportunity to try out for Channel Q, I needed a complete presentation. I thought no other than to seek out my professors here at Norfolk State. I enlisted Lateef Gibson as one of my main resources and tools. He led me to his digital photography course where I had students take photos for me to put in the presentation. Those photos landed one of the students in his class a job with Intercom Communications in their digital department. I am here, and I thank you all.
Welcome back. I told you that was going to be fabulous. And while we were away, we were discussing the continuous collaboration that we have among each other. And Dr. Erickson, you wanted to jump in there?
Yes, I was just going to add, I'm excited to hear about, because I have also been involved with some student collaborations and involved with student affairs collaborative efforts. And I also think it's really great that we as faculty are demonstrating this interdisciplinary approach. I think it's valuable for our students to see that. I think it's, as you have alluded to, that this is the way that we need to proceed for our students to be successful and achieve greater things. So I'm excited about the collaborations that are going on. I also wanted to share a little bit about some faculty members in the School of Social Work. There, many of my colleagues are supporting collaborative efforts, including with human trafficking. So they're working in the community with social services, and then also the legal system. So there's those efforts, mental health across campus with psychology and counseling center, nursing. So I wanted to highlight some of the work that some of my colleagues are doing also. So I think it's really exciting that we are continuing to promote that.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. And as Dr. Salary pointed out during the break, hey, we're collaborating right now.
Right.
The next prompt. What separates NSU from other schools? It is our commitment to student success by meeting students where they are and making sure that they get to where they need to be upon graduating. What are some unique experiences that you have had with teaching and student success?
I can start with that
Okay.
one because I do think it is very important to get students involved in the research process and providing experiences for students to practice delivering that information to the community. It's great to do the research, it's great to collect the data, but if you keep it and it stays in the classroom and it never makes it out to the community, then its usefulness is kind of limited. And so we want to make that information very, very useful, and we also want to develop the skills in our students to be able to deliver it. So there are projects that are in class where students research a topic, they collect, they research the topic, they review data, evidence-based data, best practice data, and then they prepare presentations for a community. So it's going to be a project that's specific for that community, because when they go back to their communities, they will now know how to look at some of the demographic data, some of the health disparities, and they can pull that information. And not only that, we don't want them just to take, HIV rates are high, diabetes rates are high, high blood pressure rates are high. No, we want them to also have a potential solution. And then that's where exercise comes in. Because within that presentation, they also have to do something that is health promoting. And so they present an exercise. When you think about it, physical inactivity is a risk factor for most all of the chronic diseases. Physical activity or exercise is one of the treatments.
Wow.
And so we want students to understand their value and understand their roles. And there's research in every area. I will say one thing about understanding that every discipline, no matter what it is, it has a research aspect to it. And some people across campus do not always fully appreciate or understand that there is research in health and physical education. Most people say, physical education, that's when they throw balls around. Yeah, we throw the balls around, but those balls that we are throwing around are to address health disparities.
Excellent.
Okay? And so we need to understand that there is research in every discipline.
That is awesome. I tell students who come to Norfolk State for the first time when I speak at orientation, I say, we want you to leave here 100% healthy. And by 100% healthy, I mean healthy academically. Yes, get your degree and get it well so you can be competitive. We want you to be healthy spiritually, and we also want you to be healthy physically.
Yes.
And so that kind of speaks to what you just said. What about you, Dr. McGowan?
I'm not sure that I do what I do uniquely here. I've taught in 6 different countries. And so I'm always in culture shock. But I try to teach my students how to be competitive in the marketplace. One of my students, or several of my students over time, have asked me, what's the difference between what we do in your class and what a real financial analyst does? And I say, nothing. You're doing exactly what they do. And I said, what happens though over time when you're doing anything, whether it's financial analysis, sociology, stuff I don't even understand, and with out there, you're going to evolve your own techniques, and we all do. We all figure out how can we make this work best for us. That's different, but the only way you're going to get a year's experience is to work for 12 months, and they'll look at me like, oh yeah. So I look at it as an attempt to give them real-world experience in the classroom.
Excellent. And it's so important.
I like to piggyback on that, and the reason why is because a lot of what you said I not only buy into, but I try to transfer that to students. And one of the things that I look at is student outcomes, and not in the same way that the state of Virginia looks at student outcomes. You know, they look at graduation rates. I look at getting a job rates. And to me, that is the ultimate outcome for our students, is either getting a job or getting into grad school. And one of the things that I've become pretty passionate about is making sure that when our students leave our department, that they are either job ready or prepared for graduate school. And I think I hope that since I've been here, I've made a difference in those areas. One of the things that we do within our department is a lot of internships. We suggest and recommend that students get some real world experience, and that becomes invaluable. And I can tell you that, you know, even Latif does it all the time. Every year for the MEAC championship, he takes a load of students over, and they are working on projects that are being broadcast live. And it doesn't get any more real world than that. You know, if you make a mistake on live TV, the world knows. So it doesn't get any more real world than that. So, you know, I had a student who was, I'd love to say her name, I don't know if I can in this panel, but I have a student, a former student who is now in graduate school. She was a student athlete here. And for the first couple of years, she really didn't do much other than her volleyball and go to classes. But I noticed that her writing was really strong, and she didn't really come to office hours that much, unless she just, you know, needed a schedule change or something. But once I started to engage with her a little bit more, I think it was in her junior year, I suggested graduate school to her. And she said, "Oh, no, I'm from Detroit. No, that's not, you know, nobody in my family's ever been to grad school, and I'm just trying to get through this, you know." And the first semester of her senior year, she said, "Can we talk a little bit more about the grad school thing?" By, I think, December, she had applied to several, had been accepted to several, and last year started graduate school. But not only did she start graduate school, she was also concerned about how to pay for graduate school. So I you know, look for some TA-ships or some GA-ships, things like that. She applied for a TA-ship and received it. And this is a young lady who a year before was adamant about not going to graduate school, and then sending me emails about her first experiences teaching classes as a TA. That's a phenomenal transformation to me. And that's a kind of transformation that you want to see out of every student. But you know, the best that we can do, if we can get 2 or 3 a semester to buy in, if we can, you know, get a couple of semesters to buy in, I think we've done our job, or done a good job. But I think there is nothing or no more value than those students coming back and telling current students, you know what, I was clueless. I had no direction, had no idea what I was going to do, and then, you know, it comes. Because a lot of our students still are struggling to figure it out, to figure out, you know what, I've been here 3 years now, I have no clue as to what I want to do when I graduate.
And that is a common thread with college students across the country. You know, they know that they wanted to go to college, but their career field, they often change it, or they're undecided. You know, I'm under and we'll talk a little bit later about reimagining, but I'm not so sure if we should even pick majors any longer. I'm thinking broad. But also I just want to make mention, when you say TA ships, you mean teaching assistantships.
Yes.
For the viewing audience, and RA ships mean research assistantship. And Lateef, you mentioned Lateef, he's our wonderful producer behind the camera there that has been working extremely hard on this, and that's Mr. Lateef Gibson. All right, thanks. Anyone else want to add about our experiences with our students and student success in teaching?
Yeah, I'll chime in on that. One thing I can say that the College of Science, Engineering, and Technology does, that's CSET, and we have a great opportunity that we take advantage of with faculty mentoring students. That's one of the things we do. We do a lot of other things, but we found that one of the best practices for getting students from their freshman year through to their senior year into graduation, and then even to graduate school, because we're talking about the STEMs. The STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, it's hard to get people into. To stay into it is a lot more difficult. So we find that we have this diaspora that continues to happen where students are leaving it. But once we show that we care about them, once we show that we're here to mentor them, and we're part of their process, they tend to stay a lot longer. We see them not only successful in their academics, but we find they'll come back to us and say, thank you for changing my life. Because you changed something about me. And so one of the things I'm very proud of that CSET does is that, but then we also do something that I've coined, I have a phrase that I've coined, it's called near peer. Meaning that what we do is not just peer instruction, but near peer instruction. There's a program called the Denimas program, and there are other programs called STARS, and those programs we let our students talk and counsel and mentor younger students. So the senior mentors the juniors mentor the sophomores, and so on and so forth. That's called near peer, because your nearest peers are going to be the ones that have the greatest impact on you. Sometimes I know we are the experts, right? That's great that we're the experts, but the near peer has the greatest impact. And so we kind of promote our students to tutor. We promote our students to mentor. We promote our students in CSET to continue to give back, not just to the community, but give back to the younger student, because that student is going to be held up by you. It's one of the frames that we use this idea of the picture that you all have seen where the guy's reaching over the wall. And this is part of a great artwork called Exodus. And so when he's reaching back, it's called He Ain't Heavy. And so what's interesting about that, I tell my students all the time, don't forget, the student behind you, he ain't heavy.
And in the academy, we have to be careful about plagiarism, and we teach our students about plagiarism. Don't steal other people's ideas. If you take someone else's idea, you make sure they're cited. But I'm taking near peer, okay?
Right. Yeah. And I won't take near peer, but I will say that that I have had great success and enjoyed utilizing what I've called a tiered mentoring process that is similar. I've had the opportunity to work with first year students. I mentioned being involved with learning communities as well, and I have, through that experience of having the first year students be socialized and adjusted to their college experience, as they matriculate, those students become our sophomores, our juniors, and our seniors. And so there is an opportunity for those upperclassmen to serve as ambassadors and then provide support to the first year students, which allows them to essentially not just mentor or tutor, but to create experiences when they don't have access to internships. And so a lot of times we are able to engage in research, we're able to create co-curricular program activities that they can then use as experience and add that to their resume and so forth. So definitely want to co-sign the importance of that peer engagement. And I also see it as beneficial from an intergenerational understanding perspective. Sometimes they become the the translators, so to speak. To sometimes messages are missed not because of the message, but because of the messenger. And so it allows us to really connect with students, allow students to connect with their peers, for us to benefit from the innovative ideas that our students bring to the table, and to promote student engagement and success across the board.
That is absolutely wonderful. And as I listened to you talk, one word came to mind, that's community.
Yeah.
So we are structuring a learning community where it becomes embedded in our institutional structure.
Yes.
And one help the other, connecting and building community. But we also here at Norfolk State understand the importance of community in terms of the broader community off campus, our surrounding community. One of the things that anybody know anything about Norfolk State know that Norfolk State is a creation of the African American community in the city of Norfolk. So let's talk a little bit about our experiences with community service. That sounded too criminal justice like, right? Service in the community that we use our expertise.
I would love to start the discussion in that area because social work, community engagement is an integral part of what we do as social workers. So many of my colleagues are involved in the community with their students and as faculty members. Some things, there is so much, I'm trying to decide where to begin. But many faculty members are involved have been appointed by the governor to state task force and committees to be involved in that way. Many faculty members participate in national committees about to address substance abuse, anti-racism. So as social workers, they are demonstrating that importance of being involved in the community and policy development and those endeavors. But then also, directly within our curriculum, we have the field practicum portion of our curriculum, which requires students to go into an agency and apply what they have learned as seniors. This is their final involvement, but they are placed in different agencies, community agencies, to work with various populations and apply this knowledge that they have gained. And, I have a note here of all these different populations because I knew I'd forget some, but youth, infants and families, marginalized individuals, older adults, military, and forensic social work, financial social work, mental health, restoration of African American history. So there are many different areas that our faculty are not only experts in, and they are engaging in the community and sharing expertise in all those areas that I just shared, but then also students are involved in the agencies, developing those skills in those areas also. And if I had to think of a couple, I can think of a couple examples recently of how that occurs, which also coincides with this idea of collaboration, is what I was thinking. And so many of our social work faculty are mentors to our students, and they participate in publications and presentations with our students in scholarship based on the students' interests. So most recently, some faculty have published about the impact of COVID and strategies to address some services in the communities. That's an area. And as a reminder, this would apply across the different programs in social work. We have bachelor's, master's, and PhD students. So what I'm discussing applies to all of those areas also. And one particular faculty member is working with the Department of Housing to address displacement, gentrification. So she is teaching the students about completing needs assessments, which is an assessment piece of course, and determining how to address these needs in the community, which is active learning, engagement, so it helps students learning, but also we're addressing the needs in the community. So we are excited about those efforts this past year. You can hear there's a lot going on, so I'm trying to decide what I get to share. But maybe one more, some faculty have been involved in the community trying to address the educational piece of COVID and outreach to the community. So that, again, a collaborative effort on two facets. There's a colleague that I have who's been examining the mental health aspect for students in particular, which is, again, a collaborative effort between nursing, psychology, social work, and the counseling center. So what can we do to address the needs with students? But then also faculty have been doing outreach to the broader community to educate the community on what we can do better with services surrounding COVID, and that has been in partnership with EVMS, for example.
Excellent.
So,
Well, you guys do a lot in social work. Well, I know I just saw a campus announcement where it was the video from Governor Northam recognizing one of your Falcon members, Dr. Kalita Fairfax, in her contribution to the state of Virginia, looking at historical landmarks. Is that correct?
yes, exactly.
And she was the chair of this statewide commission. And the fact that a sitting governor sat down and made a video that was like 3 minutes long just recognizing her accomplishment shows you what Norfolk State does in our arm in the community that often go unrecognized, but we're very steeped. Anyone else want to share?
Absolutely.
You know, I was going to use the term new dean, but he's been here 3 years, so he's not really new anymore. But Dean Carrington began a
Give his
entrepreneurship
first name.
center. Pardon?
Give his first name so they know what you're talking about. His first name?
Oh, Glenn Carrington.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Started a entrepreneurship center downtown, where we interact, or we don't. The people interact with small business people in particular who want to know how to do things. If you've ever been involved in a small business, you know there's a lot of paperwork. Go figure. But we're doing things like that. And the new director, who's also a faculty member, she's half faculty, half director, has done a lot of work mentoring towards entrepreneurship young women. And several of you have talked about mentoring. So maybe there's some opportunity for collaboration there.
Excellent. Excellent. Anyone else want to talk about the connection in the broader community?
Yes, we also have an internship component as well as a student teaching component. So Dr. Rowson has the teacher prep program and
Leon Rowson.
Yeah,
right?
Leon Rowson, and always definitely looking to prepare and place African American males in schools. So I think that's also a great emphasis, but also making sure that our students make it through barriers such as passing teaching certification exams. So to have a program dedicated to that on campus to make sure that we are preparing the next generation of teachers is very important.
Yes, yes.
We have the kinesiotherapy program, our health, wellness, and rehabilitation program, have internships. And these internships require quite a few hundreds of hours. But it is important that the curriculum reflect, as Dr. Marsh indicated, some of the real world experiences that will happen when the students are out there on internship. So one of the things that I did about 5 years ago is I retooled. I went back through the process that the students would go through for the kinesiotherapy program. So that meant applying for a health professional traineeship at McGuire Veterans Administration Medical Center. And I did everything that the students did. And when I went there, I told them, I want you to treat me like I'm a student coming in. I want to do the same things that they're doing. And this is what was so great about that experience. while I was doing my internship or my health professional traineeship, I was being trained by students that were my former students in the kinesiotherapy program. I was also on internship at the same time that current students were doing their internship. So it was a totally different experience for former graduates, current students, enrolled myself because we were working. But when I was there, some of the people I followed the most were NSU graduates. I was just like, put me with this because I had them. So I knew, and they were doing just so wonderful. So now I was able to come back into the classroom and share those experiences, not to mention the wealth of rehabilitation information that I was now able to incorporate in the anatomy physiology class, to the clinical aspects of aging class, to the exercise physiology class, to the stress management class. I was able to incorporate all of that wonderful information, as well as talk about working with the VA population.
Very good.
So, yes.
Yeah, and I also know in your area, Dr. Cynthia Burwell just got a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yes, she was my person.
Oh, okay. Okay.
My person.
We'll come back to Doc then. But you're going to hear something great about Dr. Cynthia Burwell soon. For me, one of my foci is reaching out to the community. That's something that I feel that is hugely important. And yes, it may be the sociologist in me, but I'm very, very, very dedicated to that. So I served on many different boards in the city of Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and the surrounding areas. But just recently, they invited me to serve on the City of Norfolk Emergency Response Team when COVID broke out. And everybody knowing the thrust of COVID, the newness of it, we couldn't find solid ground. No one knew what this thing was going to do. We just knew it was a pandemic. And to be one of 10 people in the city of Norfolk to be invited to serve in that capacity, I found it to be an honor. And the second thing that I want to share is that I am the first non-criminal justice person to be appointed as chair of the Norfolk Community Criminal Justice Board. And so this board is comprised of all the judges in the city of Norfolk, the police department, probation and parole, victim witness program, K through 12 school system, and there's some other entities and of course attorneys on both sides. So this board is a very rich board, very powerful board with a lot of voice. And I don't know what they think they got into by putting me as chair, but it's going to be fun. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because all of these experiences stem from the fact that I was literally exhausted of hearing and seeing black bodies laying in the street being killed. Now, how can I contribute to that? The broader community. What can I say? Can I lift my voice? Can I lend my expertise? And I found a way to do that. And I think that is the epitome of Norfolk State. That's what we do. We take our talents and we see how we can infiltrate the community to make it better. And it's absolutely exciting. And also we have a very rich connection to the spiritual realm of the city of Norfolk and all the faith-based institutions. They have served on our BOVs, they served on foundations, they have taken our courses, and so the fact that we are so connected to faith-based institutions, which represent a larger body of community within not only the city of Norfolk, but all of Hampton Roads and the state of Virginia and nationwide, we are excited about that. And at this time, I think you have earned the right to hear from one of our matriculating students. So stay tuned.
Greetings. My name is Somtochukwu Joshua Azike. I am from the Igbo tribe in southeastern Nigeria, which is on the western part of the African continent. I learned about Norfolk State University, NSU, through my uncle, who knew one of the outstanding faculty, Professor Okala. I am a master's student in urban affairs, and as an international student from Nigeria, one of my biggest fears was questioning instructors, which could sometimes be a precarious venture back home. However, Dr. Robert Perkins had helped me understand that it is normal to ask questions respectfully without fear and form relationships with faculty. As Dr. Perkins would say, ask questions, closed mouths do not get fed. My encounter with faculty helped cushion the effects of culture shock. Norfolk State University's faculty are highly skilled experts in their various subjects and well-versed in cultural norms and practices. They provided ample guidance throughout my academic endeavors. Since being here, I have been part of a National Science Foundation grant for social cybersecurity studies and research run by Dr. Colleen Turner. The grant allowed me to participate in innovative research, attend conferences, give presentations, and garner awards. I recently received an award for placing first in the graduate category of the 2021 Symposium for research done in collaboration with Computer Science Department under the mentorship of Dr. Claude Turner. I am genuinely excited about my professional future as I complete my master's thesis on the criminal justice system in a digital era, the challenges and opportunities for third world communities. I hope to take it to Nigeria to help develop a more robust and safer community. I'll be forever grateful to the top-notch faculty at Norfolk State University.
Welcome back. I told you we have some awesome students here at Norfolk State, and you had just gotten a treat. When we left, we were talking about the broader community, and we want to finish up that. We just have to button that because we are really big about community here at Norfolk State.
So one of the things that I was thinking about during the break was the fact that years ago when I was a kid, coming to Norfolk State to watch students climb on buses to go to protests out of, particularly in Washington, D.C. I remember buses going to Washington, D.C. I actually had a cousin on one of those buses, and he got arrested in Washington, and the family was proud of him. I was like, I've never heard of a family being proud of someone getting arrested.
For protesting.
He got arrested for protesting. Yes,
gotcha. Okay.
And they were proud of him because he was taking a stand, and he was risking himself to be there. But I think Norfolk State has a long history of being of advocating that Norfolk State students are involved in the community, and I know for one I have taken that from Norfolk State. I have protested in Ferguson, Missouri, and Baltimore, Maryland. In Baltimore, I actually photographed both of those protests and had images that were published. But in Baltimore, I actually had two former students with me while we were protesting. One actually lives in Baltimore, and the other lived in D.C. So I think it's those experiences that students carry away with them. That we are not only just talking the talk, but we're in the trenches as well.
Excellent. So our teaching and our scholarship and our community service is not monolithic.
Absolutely not.
I love it. I love it. Okay, I'm gonna throw a curveball at the panelists. They said they were ready for me. Let's see. Now, as academicians, we're in over our heads with our research, and we have to go to conferences to present them. We talk about them in our classroom, but I want to see, do we pay attention to each other? So what I want the panelists to do is talk about awesome research or researcher at Norfolk State that is not you, but someone that you admire here at the university. Anybody want to jump in? Well, I think you had mentioned something. Yes.
Well, you're all familiar with the term big data.
Yes.
If you log on, all the ads are the result of big data. Big data is basically anytime you're on social media, that's collected and analyzed, and that concept is called data analytics. And we've started a new program in data analytics with, again, Dean Glenn Carrington, in order to get our students up to date on that so that when the job market they're ready. And we're beginning, and again, this is more early stages than not, a new program in financial literacy. Okay, I don't know about you, but when I was real young, I made an awful lot of mistakes when it came to money. And that's what financial literacy is, understanding money. You basically have at any point in time lifetime income and lifetime expenditures, and it's real convenient if those match up. Okay, too many times, and I tell students, if you get a free credit card that has a 24% interest rate, cut it in half. Just throw it away, because you're going to get in a lot of trouble. So we're starting a new program now, or in it's financial planning, personal financial planning, but it really revolves around the whole concept of financial literacy. What is it that people need to understand about money to stay out of financial trouble? And even if you're in trouble, what can you do to fix it? You mentioned earlier, having been around a while, I have too. That's why I have a lot of experience in making mistakes along these lines. But those two, data analytics and financial literacy, are two innovative programs. I have colleagues doing research in those areas that we're bringing to our program.
Excellent. That is awesome. Can you name those colleagues so we can give them their just due?
Monsef Belajali is working with data analytics. Jim Chen is doing most of the work. And again, financial literacy program is more infancy. We have some proposals that are going forward to the curriculum committee, but Jim does that. I do a lot of writing on finance, and then but Jim would be the guy who's the
Excellent.
professor who's working on that right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Since we're talking about work that we appreciate from some of our peers, I have to recognize you, Dr. Perkins.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You actually
Okay,
worked
I
on,
paid him for this one. Okay.
you actually worked on a paper a few years ago that was published related to police-related media. And I found that to be interesting. I think you worked on that with Morgan. And
I did.
Yeah.
It was a collaboration between Andrew Franklin, Kirby Morgan, and myself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I thought that was anything dealing with the media I find interesting. However, as of the last probably 10 years, anything police related in the media dealing with African Americans, I find I kind of gravitate to. And that's one of my areas of research. And, you know, if a news organization goes into a community and they are interviewing people about an incident, they always talk to the police. However, police will give one perspective, and that's from a police perspective, not necessarily from the perspective of the rest of the community. So anything police related, any type of police related media, I'm generally interested in.
All right. Thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Yes. So I need to backtrack just a little bit, and then I'm going to end with Dr. Burwell.
Okay.
And so I'll make this quick. And so in the School of Education, we have Dr. Cynthia Nichols and Danelle Wallace that are looking at self-care of African American women during COVID. Dr. Donna Wolf, that actually presented yesterday, but she's been looking at training and the physical fitness of ROTC candidates so that they can pass the physical fitness test. And with that, she's had lots of students that have engaged in collecting research and presenting at conferences. So we have several faculty members that have students presenting at statewide conferences. Mrs. Khalil Wilson, which is actually one of my former students and a current instructor, works one-on-one with the student health ambassadors, training them to implement health promotion programs. And then we have Dr. Sean Anderson, you know, a Big Ten champion swimmer. That is on the board for the Olympic swimming team. And he has been consistently engaged in programming at Norfolk State University directed at teaching African American young people how to swim so that we can reduce the horrific drowning rates that happen. So we have some faculty across the board doing wonderful things. Now, Dr. Cynthia Burwell. an awesome academician, scholar. I could go on, but we have limited time. But one of the areas I want to highlight is the Healthy Churches Coalition.
Correct.
Now, Dr. Burwell has been recognized. She received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the American College Health Association. She also received the Best Practice Award for the Healthy Churches Coalition through the Balm of Gilead. And the Healthy Churches Coalition is an outgrowth of our wonderful and distinguished NSU Center of Excellence in Health Disparities. And Dr. Burwell is the director of the center. And what I love about the Healthy Churches Coalition is that is an example of true collaborative and participatory research. It's not fake. It's not it's not a coalition that people try to bring together because there's a grant that's due in 2 months. This is a coalition that started before a grant. It's continuing through grants. It'll be here after grants, because you have to make sure that you always stay engaged with the community.
Yes.
And the Healthy Churches Coalition is a platform to allow us to stay engaged with the community, not just when a project comes up. We often have discussions, and when we are collaborating in the community, we are more than just a letter of support from our community members. We are more than that. And so when we're doing collaborative research, it needs to be true. It needs to be real. And the Healthy Churches Coalition platform, which Dr. Burwell initiated, helps us.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. You have someone?
A number of people, but I'll start with some of my colleagues, of course, that are over in the McDimmon Center, where we're doing research in material science and in optics and in engineering and optical engineering. And so a number of them are doing awesome research, but the one who comes off the top of my head, of course, that's near and dear to my research is Dr. Doyle Temple, who is doing research, of course, in the quantum materials. He got here a few years ago. I used to work with him when he was at another university in the area. And it's interesting to watch how he always gets excited about what's new and innovative, and to watch him go into the moment, it makes you excited to see him talk about it. And then, of course, there's Dr. Naganoff. Mikhail Naganoff, doing a lot of research, and the one that I'm a lot interested in, I don't know if you all know about this, and I won't name the type of materials, but they're called, I won't go into the details of it, they're called metamaterials. Just think of it like this. If you remember the cloak that Harry Potter was wearing, the invisible cloak, metamaterial. So it's not something that's away from us, it's real. It can happen. You can literally see through certain material and you can see to the other side. So metamaterials, and then other like Naganova and some of these other persons who are doing research in the sciences. But then there are people who I enjoy in social work, because I'm a big advocate for the work that's being done in human rights and social injustice. But more than that, the human slave trade that's going on. And you think about it, and there's so many areas of that. So I always call it the human slave trade, but they know what I'm talking about, where you got human trafficking, where you have persons, young people being put into working at a certain age. We thought that was over with years ago. Now you have young people being put into sweat boxes again. And we don't know that this is still going on. People are being carried over and brought over in boats and stuff like that. Some choose to come over. Others are captured and brought over and forced to work in some of the most horrific conditions, and especially in sexual trafficking. So those areas in social work, sociology, I'm always interested in persons that are working over there, such as you guys are over there, Dr. Michelle Nevels, who connected on the human trafficking issue, and some others that I enjoy their work. And then finally, I always like to sit down and listen. If you just get and listen to her a lot, Dr. Cassandra Newberry.
Oh, yes.
She can tell you history, geography, but you just sit and listen to her, the vast information that comes from her. It's just, and you can tell it's not fake.
Right.
She would do it regardless. Of course, the funding helps, but she talked recently, and she was sharing with us. She was sharing about something that's going on in Norfolk about a part of the Underground Railroad, which is going through a church right here locally, and you can actually go visit the tunnels that are under the church.
Wow.
I thought that was interesting, and she talked about how that church wants to partner with a number of persons and be a part of that. So you can do research in that. That's interdisciplinary research. So we can do social work, we can do science, we can do psychology, the psychology of being in a tunnel and having to stay there till someone tells you to leave.
Physical
The
activity.
physical activity of movement, the business understanding of it. How do we make money? That's how we can do all this. I'm sorry, too long.
Well, I was going like this, you couldn't see me.
Yeah.
No, but all of those were very good points, and I just wanted to add to your comments about human trafficking that Dr. Kathy Jackson
Yes.
is doing a lot of work in that area in mass communication. Yes.
So I noticed people are sharing names, but I was trying to take the easy way. Because in our school, honestly, I am pleased to work with colleagues who are engaged in scholarship. And 20 plus colleagues, how do I talk about which work is, the one that is of value? So I have some numbers here that I thought I could share. And if you've been listening, I've been sharing about some of my colleagues' work in the community, but I don't want to omit someone inadvertently. So for example, this past year, colleagues within the School of Social Work have 29 articles. There are 13 book chapters, 9 funded grants, including grants such as Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, SAMHSA grants, and these grants, maybe I can add a little bit about what those are about youth and addressing marginalized youth in particular, substance abuse, 40 presentations, colleague who has presented at the Harvard Law School about forensic social work. Let's see. And of course, we've had many presenters at our national recognized organizations. And I think faculty are most pleased when they're presenting with students, actually, because I think that's the heart of what we are about. So many of those presentations are now starting to include those students also. Some other areas I was interested to hear. We have just hired a recent faculty member, actually, and her area of expertise is financial literacy in social work. So she's also going to be contributing that valuable information. So I wanted to give that broad perspective. I did mention human trafficking earlier. And involved with gentrification issues, addressing those in the community also. So I'm pleased that we have, and then I did mention historical artifacts that, so we have a wide array of faculty involved in many different research projects. Did I neglect any? Gerontology, I didn't mention that one. Again, health disparities, I know. And I know that social work is actively involved in health disparities, also with various faculty on campus, and military. I guess that's one I haven't brought up again. But there was a grant with SAMHSA related to military and how to work with that population and provide services.
Like I said, social work is very busy. And I think, Dr. Russell, you will be the last. I think we heard from everyone else.
Yeah, I would say in the Honors College, we're interdisciplinary faculty. So there are many, many great faculty contributing. So I'll just kind of highlight a few that happen to kind of work in a similar area and work together often. So our dean, Dr. Khadijah Miller, works with Dr. Ernestine Duncan and Dr. Karen Holmes, and they do some really, really interesting work, I would say, passionate.
Let me jump in, and Bernadette Holmes.
And Dr. Bernadette Holmes. I cannot forget Dr. Bernadette Holmes.
Bernadette, you owe me one.
Yes. Thank you. Great save. And they do really important work that looks at the strong Black woman and the superwoman syndrome, and kind of consider those things in relation to the health consequences of expectations of strength and so forth. I definitely would name those. This is no slight to all of the other wonderful faculty who are doing great things. These are just some that kind of rose to the top of mind at this moment.
Excellent. As you can see, we just have our lion's share of scholarship and scholarly activities that are happening on campus. I want to take a different twist on mine as well in responding to this question. First, I want to give a major shout out to some of our assistant professors in the sociology department that are doing outstanding work, such as Dr. Tim Goler, Dr. Austin Ash. They are doing tremendous work, and I'm really excited about their upcoming presentations and scholarship that they're doing, and you can hear more about them. And Dr. Ewing Shin, Dr. Michael Fisher, who's the guru on publishing everything he can get his hands on. But anyway, we're doing some great things. But I want to talk about Sika J. Solomon.
Okay.
And he's doing some incredible work in fine arts with creating pieces. And he just got this big award from somewhere that he doesn't like to talk about. And they got one of his pieces on this big billboard and stuff. I mean, he's doing some incredible things. And for me, it's really stretching me as a sociologist to see humanity in art form. And the lack of, as well as the overextended humanity that we all need to come to terms with. So I think it's just fascinating work that he's doing over there in fine arts. And this brings us to our last question. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking with my colleagues today. This has just been tremendous. We talked about institutions, HBCUs a little bit. We talked about Norfolk State a lot. We talked about our students. We talked about the connectiveness to community. We talked extensively about research and scholarship. But I want to challenge you as for the last question. If you had to reimagine universities and colleges across the United States to perform differently systematically, how would that be? And the genesis of this question comes from the push for the last, I guess, 6 months about defund the police, meaning let's reimagine policing in 2021. Let's do it differently. Let's make it fairer. Let's make sure that the community is more involved. So if you had to reimagine the higher educational system, how would you reimagine it? What would you do structurally different? Anyone?
I'm going to take a stab at it.
Okay.
I think this is a big question. I think this is a very big question, and I think that it very well could be a research question that extends beyond this moment. So I would implement an intentional and intensive focus centering the importance of wellness and work-life integration. I would reinforce the importance of quality over quantity, and ensure that we are developing scholars that can effectively have impact in their areas while also living balanced and healthy lives. What does that look like? That kind of remains to be seen. However, I really believe that it is important, it is imperative that as we are finding ourselves in moments to reimagine, that we allow ourselves the space to critically evaluate our processes, check in with ourselves, our individual wellness, our holistic wellness, our wellness as a community, as an institutional community, as a society, and scale some things back. Quantity does not equal quality. And I think that it's great that we are developing innovators and creators. And at the same time, we want to live to enjoy the things that we are developing and becoming. And so that will be my recommendation. And I'm committed to to delving into that.
Excellent. All right, very good.
Anyone want to? Yeah,
Sure.
you know what? I think that's an interesting topic, and I think that in terms of my reimagining education and the higher educational system, I think we had a pretty good glimpse of that over the last year and a half, over the last 16 months. I expect to see more classes online and more students gravitating toward online education. But I also, honestly, I think that we need to, in academia, we need to kind of reevaluate the way that we present content to students. And the reason for it, the reason that I say that is, I was reading some research a couple of years ago that stated that in 1960, the average student, it gave an age demographic, I think it was 12 to 18 or something like that, read about 4 to 6 hours a day. The average student now reads less than an hour a day. And however, they engage with tons of visual content, particularly on social media and in digital formats. So I think that we need to reach them where they are. And one of the things that I know that we do in our department is that we are starting to do more videos. I just in the process of redoing one of my online classes, I infuse more videos. And not just hour-long videos. The attention span of these students, if it's beyond 10 minutes, they've lost you. Which is another reason that I believe that a 3-hour lecture no longer is a valuable way to engage students. Chunking information, I think that students grasp the information a lot better, but they stay with you during that chunk of information. After the chunk of information, have a little interaction, some discussion with the students. But I think they grasp concepts a lot better that way, as opposed to being lulled after about 15 minutes of someone talking. There are other things on the horizon that I get excited about in terms of higher education and some changes going to higher education. I think one other thing that I would love to see is for non-HBCUs to respect the work of HBCUs. I'll leave it there.
Oh, I love that. I love that. We only have 5 minutes. Anybody else want to jump in with that? Thank you, Terry.
Yes.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay,
I have
all
nothing
right.
to say that wouldn't get me in trouble.
Oh, okay.
I would like systemically for universities to reimagine the number of credit hours that are required for financial aid assistance. There are students that are forced, let's say over the summer, to take a certain number of credit hours, and it's a shorter span of time in order to qualify for the financial aid. And maybe, not saying all 4 years or 5 or 6 for that undergraduate year, but maybe there is a semester or a summer where they need to take a critical class. This class, that is the only class that they need to take, because taking 2 additional classes along with that class is going to make the situation worse. And so if they could take that critical class by itself and receive financial aid, it can allow them to take upper level courses.
Okay. Excellent. Anyone else?
My idea derives from the School of Social Work this past year, because of world events, implemented a social justice assignment in every course. And so I would love to propose that be implemented on a campus-wide, institutional-wide, inviting our fellow institutions, if you will, to participate in not only gaining social justice knowledge, but practice.
Interesting. Very good. We have some very good thoughts. If I had to reimagine higher education, I would get rid of majors in schools and just have one big interdisciplinary degree. where we all can pick out our specialty topics and research area, but make sure that it's meshing and collaborating in a very broad spectrum. Because the one thing that I've learned from students for the last 5 to 10 years, they are not one-dimensional. Their interests are so varied. And so I want the educational system to catch up with that, because sometimes I wonder if we're dampening down their creativity by the structures that we have in higher education. With that said, I want to thank Dr. Carl McGowan from the School of Business, Dr. Sheila Ward from the School of Education, Dr. Leroy Salary from the College of Science and Technology, Dr. Kirsten Erickson from the School of Social Work, Dr. Terry Marsh from the College of Liberal Arts, and Dr. Erica Russell from the College of Liberal Arts, but she's representing the Honors College. And of course, thank you, the listening audience. I am Robert Perkins, sociologist here at Norfolk State University. You can find more information about us on our website at www.nsu.edu. And at this time, I will turn it over to our Dean of Graduate Studies, Dr. George Miller, for the closing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Perkins. That was an extremely exciting, engaging discussion. After being at NSU for many years, I learned a lot from listening to the experts in their respective fields. This discussion was an excellent segue to the final portion of today's symposium. On behalf of the symposium committee, I wish to thank our panel of presenters who represent the outstanding scholarship research on our campus. The investor of Norfolk State University's 7th president, Dr. Javon Adam Gaston, has presented a unique opportunity to celebrate and highlight this university's exceptional faculty's research, scholarship, innovation, and vision as we move forward in a new era in NSU history. This symposium has exhibited our vibrant faculty who are dedicated to creative scholarship, research, community involvement, as well as prepare our students to compete globally. Given NSU's unique mission as a leading HBCU dedicated to teaching, service, and scholarship, this is a must. Since its inception, these principles continue to be the core values of NSU's faculty. I am confident that as you listen to this symposium, you're able to get a sense of the scope of the steadfastness and the dedication to our mission of our educating our students and producing professionals from all disciplines as NSU moves forward, which demonstrates the inaugural theme. This is our time, our mission, our vision. We are delighted that you joined us, and thank you for sharing your time with us. In closing, I would like to thank the Faculty Symposium Planning Subcommittee for the President's inauguration for their efforts in producing this symposium. They are from COLA, Dr. Michelle Rosga, English, Dr. Kalisha Miller, Honors College, Dr. Robert Perkins, Sociology, Mr. Lateef Gibson, the Video Specialist, Adjunct Professor, Mass Communication and TV Studio. From the College of Science, Engineering, and Technology, Dr. Rhonda Fitzgerald, Mathematics, Dr. Alicia McCain, Chemistry, and the Dean's Director. From the School of Business, Dr. Moncrief Bahaja, Mrs. Josephine Stanley Brown. And from the School of Education, Ms. Jacqueline Boone, Early Childhood Education, Dr. Nicole Kaiser, Department of Secondary Education and Scholarship Leadership. Social Work, Dr. Christine Erickson, Dr. Diane Davis Wagner, Social Work, Ms. Sandra Williamson Ash, Social Work. And from the Office of the Provost, Ms. Yelena Arishna, Special Assistant to the Provost.